Hey everybody, welcome to Always Bored, Never Boring. It's finally time to finish up my coverage of Prophecy of Telor by doing a deep dive into the quest itself. If you've never seen one of these videos before, I will be talking about the overall campaign narrative and also taking a closer look at every single one of the 13 dungeons you will be exploring, highlighting interesting new features and also discussing what I like and anything that I think could be improved on. That means this video is chock full of spoilers, so please only continue watching if you plan on playing as Zargon. If you watch this as a hero, you are going to ruin the experience for yourself. With that warning out of the way, let's begin. The start of the adventure has a section for Zargon's eyes only. This section explains that the Talisman of Lore, which your players should already have from completing Mels Maze in the core game questline, was created by the wizard Melar to enhance his knowledge of the arcane. The talisman allowed him to explore the nature of dread magic, and we all know that's never a good thing. So of course he was corrupted. He even created a palantir, portal, so he could speak to Zargon, and attempt to outwit him. Sadly, Melar, wasn't up to the task and became consumed by dread magic, leading to the destruction of his mortal body. His dread spirit lived on, however, searching for a new host, and in order to find one, it hid inside the Talisman of Lore. Yeah, that's right. Frodo, one of the heroes, is wearing a dread-infused ring, talisman. That can't be good. But what does it all mean? Obviously, as the quest progresses, this is going to cause some unique problems for the heroes. Throughout the campaign, the hero wearing the talisman will hear a voice that is believed to be Mentor's, but is actually Melar's. Additionally, they will be unable to take the talisman off as Melar's spirit grows stronger. If the hero attempts to remove the talisman, it starts to burn and they suffer 1 body point of damage. And of course, the important thing to remember is that at the beginning of the quest the heroes don't know this. All the heroes are told is that Lore Tome has stopped working. It just keeps repeating the name Melar, so Mentor is sending them back to Mels Maze to see if they can find some clues as to what might be going on. The first quest is Return to Mels Maze, and yes, large chunks of the maze are exactly the same as they were the first time the heroes were there, right down to the placement of some traps and secret doors. That's the only real thing of note here. It's a nice little nostalgia throwback as you get to return to a place you already know. However, there are some changes. Some rooms have been bricked up or doors have collapsed, and during their exploration the heroes will find a secret door they missed on their last visit, which leads not only to a new part of the dungeon, but the second quest in the book. During this first quest, the heroes will find several notes Melar wrote explaining that he intends to explore dread magic and that he has learned to summon the dead, plus something bigger and nastier, hinting at the trouble that lies ahead for the gang. More interestingly, when the bearer of the talisman enters a specific location, there is a piece of text meant only for them that the Zargon player reads. It tells the player they feel like they have been in that place before, and they somehow instinctively know how to find a healing potion hidden there. This is a lovely subtle way to introduce the idea that this one hero is going to have to start grappling with the weight of the Talisman of Lore and its dread inhabitants. Unfortunately, there are some signs of sloppiness in this quest that I wouldn't have expected from Stephen Baker. Firstly, it uses too many bookcases. By the end of the quest there could be as many as 3 on the board, as well as a cupboard. So if you don't have extra furniture from Major the Mirror, you are either going to have to recycle one from somewhere else on the board, or just leave it out. Fortunately, the third bookcase has no special rules associated with it, so that's not so bad. Additionally, in the room with the third bookcase, there is a random spear trap in the middle of the room. And what's that all about? I have seen this in other HeroQuest missions and it's always a head scratcher, as if the designer has forgotten how the game works. Heroes do not have to stand next to furniture to search it. They can stand anywhere in a room and search not only the room, but every piece of furniture in it. There is absolutely no reason a hero needs to walk into this last room, and the chances of anyone springing that spear trap are remote. Honestly, as a Zargon player, I think I would probably leave that room out of the whole mission. It's more trouble than it's worth. Quest 2 is Escape from Mels Maze. The heroes need to find the stairway leading to Melar's high tower, but they must do it quickly as they are being chased by the greenskin hordes. Once the heroes reach a certain point in the dungeon, at the start of every subsequent Zargon turn, Zargon can place 2 goblins and 1 orc at the entrance, so the heroes are under pressure to keep moving. There isn't anything particularly standout about this dungeon except for its construction. It's beautifully done, with two routes that eventually meet up, so heroes are going to spend a lot of the quest worrying they have gone the wrong way, and they may be trapped as the greenskins close in. If the heroes find the stairway, they move to quest 3, the Great Stairwell, and this mission is really inventive. It only uses the central chamber of the board, and that one chamber is used to represent each floor of the tall tower. Heroes are placed in the first room along with any monsters, furniture and the stairway tile, and they must kill all the monsters before returning to the stairs. Once they are back on the stairs, the board is cleared and Zargon sets up the next level of the tower. As the heroes progress through the 12 floors, they will find illusory bookshelves hiding rows of enemies, an enchanted goblin that can cheat death, magical glyphs on chests that explode, and at the very top, a dread fire demon, clearly the thing Melar summoned. The only issue I have with this quest is the notes don't tell you what the demon's stats are. You use the gargoyle miniature, and of course this pack includes the nice alt sculpt gargoyle which looks very demonic, so you can assume it has the same stats as a gargoyle, but the notes never tell you that. The notes only say the demon can use the spell Firestorm. This is a slightly sloppy way to finish off a really clever scenario. Quest 4 is the Tower of Tor, which is the tower where Melar was experimenting with dread magic. It has a nice linear structure with a sort of spiralling shape that emphasises you are in a tower. That's really nice and shows a lot of thought in how the mission was put together. There is a fun element in this dungeon where at a certain point a secret door will spring open, allowing some monsters to ambush the heroes, but the most interesting part of the design regards the bearer of the Talisman of Lore. At a certain point, on discovering an altar, the bearer will learn the dread spell Lightning Bolt. That's pretty amazing. Lightning Bolt moves in a straight line until it hits a wall or closed door and does 2 points of damage to every model in its path. An absolutely brutal spell for a hero to have access to. Additionally, there is a fun bit where a bunch of skeleton enemies will bow to the talisman bearer and then turn to dust. That's really cool. By the end of the dungeon, the heroes have learned that Melar was trying to raise an army and was worrying about the return of the Sorcerer King Felmarak. They also find Melar's private chambers, which they explore in Quest 5, Melar's Chambers. There are two things of particular interest with this quest. The first is some of the skeletons you meet are actually skeleton abominations, and therefore have 3 body points. I think it would have been so cool to get some skeleton abominations in the box, but obviously I appreciate that's a pretty unrealistic expectation for something that turns up once in one mission. The other interesting part of this quest is there is a library where the talisman bearer will read from a book and inadvertently turn all of the other heroes into orcs. The other heroes will remain orcs until later in the quest when they find a way to reverse the spell. And while they are orcs, they have the stats of an orc, except they have 2 body points and they can use all of their equipment. They are not allowed to cast spells. Now that is a really cool idea, and it's something that is really going to take the heroes by surprise and give them something to remember. Next, the heroes go on a journey, leading them to Quest 6, the Ruined Temple of Gilgarath. At the beginning of the quest, the heroes see an apparition which tells them to retrieve the Sorcerer's Crown, and then it opens a secret door for them. Little do they know, the apparition was created by Melar. All they are told is that the Talisman Bearer must lead the way and go first in the turn order. And then something really interesting happens. The Zargon player takes control of the bearer on their first turn, moving them exactly 9 spaces on a specific path, as if they are guided by an unseen force. If the heroes pay attention to the path, they will notice that the bearer avoids certain spaces, all of which are traps. Very neat. In each subsequent turn, Zargon will assume control of the bearer again, moving them 9 more spaces on a specific route. After the 4th time of this happening, the bearer is informed that they realise Melar is taking control of their body. At this point, the bearer rolls 2 red dice, moves that many more spaces, and then breaks free, returning to their senses. The only problem is, they may be quite far ahead of their companions by this stage, and if they were unlucky enough to roll 10 or more on that last roll to escape Melar's possession, they will have stumbled right into a group of undead enemies. This is a really fantastic idea, but I do have some minor issues with it. For one, it involves Zargon taking control of the hero for 5 turns. During that time, the hero can still perform other actions, but they have no control over how far they move or where they move to. While it is exciting to see a hero losing control of their own senses in this manner, I think it could be aggravating for the player, and I am not 100% sold on taking away a character's agency to that degree for a prolonged period of time. The other issue is that this situation could be really exciting, but it also has the potential to be a bit mundane. For a start, if you're using unthreatened movement for your heroes, most heroes move 8 spaces as standard, which means the possessed talisman bearer isn't going to get too far ahead of everybody else. Even if they do, for some reason, unless they have accidentally triggered the reveal of the undead monsters hiding around the corner at the end, they can simply wait for the rest of the team to catch up. For this situation to unravel in the most dramatic way possible, you have to A. have a talisman bearer who isn't great in a solo fight, such as the wizard, B. ignore the optional rules for unthreatened movement or else have a group of heroes who are foolish enough to split up, and C. roll at least a 10 for the talisman bearer's final movement before they come to their senses. Only then will you get that panicked moment as one hero gets jumped by monsters while their friends are too far away to help. Still, I think this is something a Zargon player could tinker with in order to up the threat and put the talisman bearer in more peril. You could perhaps block the route the talisman bearer takes, forcing the others to find a different way to catch up with them. Regardless, having regained control of their senses, the talisman bearer will gain 1 mind point, and this could actually be the second time in the campaign so far that they have gained additional mind points. Furthermore, they gain the dread spell Firestorm. I think you can see where this is going. If you open your mind too much, your brain might fall out. The rest of the mission is very straightforward. The heroes don't find the crown they were searching for, but they must battle through some more enemies to discover a way out of the temple to safety. And this marks the halfway point of the campaign. The heroes know it is Melar who speaks from inside the talisman, and they know the bearer is locked in a battle of wills. At this point, the hero may attempt to remove the talisman, but they will be told they cannot. They will also soon discover that each time they cast one of their newly learned dread spells, they gain 1 mind point. And, from now on, at the beginning of each of the bearer's turns, they must roll 2 red dice. They can add 1 to the roll for each hero in the same room or corridor, or 2 to the roll for each adjacent hero. If the total they roll is equal to or greater than their mind points, nothing happens. If it's less, they lose 1 body point. If they are reduced to 0 body points for any reason, they do not die but go unconscious, kept alive by Melar's influence. Only if all the other heroes are defeated while the bearer is unconscious will the bearer be beyond recovering. Otherwise, a hero can use a potion or spell at any time to revive them. Of course, Zargon doesn't need to tell the heroes all these details. Let them stew for a bit as you make them roll the dice each turn. They'll figure it out eventually. Meanwhile, Mentor explains that he has managed to free Lore Tome of Melor's influence, and additionally he recounts a prophecy made by Telor, the wizard who fought alongside Rogar and all the other heroes from HeroQuest history in the first battles with Zargon. I do love it when a story dips back into the lore like that. In simple terms, this prophecy says a spirit from a talisman will gain form and become the evil sorcerer of Felmorak. And guess what? That form will be the body of the talisman bearer. While Mentor recovers the sorcerer's crown that the heroes failed to find, the heroes themselves go off to speak with the spirit of Telor, who may be able to help the talisman bearer. And I absolutely love this storyline, it's great. If you will recall, part of the fun of the core game questline is that the heroes mess up. After a series of adventures during which they get too big for their boots, they accidentally wake up the Witch Lord. Realizing they can't beat him, they have to find a magical weapon, and then they go back to deal with him. Of course, that isn't the end of that story, as the Witch Lord doesn't plan on staying dead for long. Well, now we have something similar, where during the core game questline, the heroes found the Talisman of Lore, and by doing so they have unleashed a great evil. This plot works so well because the threat comes from the heroes' actions. They have a personal connection and will have a strong desire to rectify a problem they helped create. And it also works because while there is a big, scary, end-of-the-world threat to deal with, there is a more immediate, smaller, more personal and more emotional problem to overcome. The life of one of the heroes lies in the balance. That's the kind of hook that keeps players on the line. Moving on, in Quest 7, the heroes are looking for a map to Telor's tomb at the archive at Arborenis. Unfortunately, the place is being ransacked. This leads to an interesting mechanism where a lot of the doors in the dungeon are already open. As soon as a hero sees one of those doors, then the room beyond is laid out and any monsters inside become active. This can lead to as many as 4 doors being opened at the same time, and as a result, the monsters in this level are a little more proactive. There are a few other little nice touches I wanted to mention here as well. If a hero stands on the square marked C, they are told they can see a walled up doorway there. They cannot open that door, but it indicates that there is a room on the other side that they need to find a way into. Also, the treasure chests in the dungeon contain random treasure, so when you open one, you draw from the treasure deck. If you draw a trap or wandering monster, you ignore it and draw again until you find a treasure. This mechanism guarantees finding something useful, but also limits the number of times each room can be searched to 1, which doesn't matter to me anyway because I only let heroes search each room once anyway. Amusingly, this dungeon also has a mini-boss, a Dread Sorcerer, but it's possible to completely avoid him. There is no need to fight him to complete the quest, the heroes just need to find the map. Quest 8 is Telor's Tomb. The Talisman Bearer is given a blue vial that they are supposed to smash in the tomb to summon Telor. This is a really unusual element that doesn't seem to work quite as well as it could, because the first room the heroes find has a tomb in it. There's a good chance they are going to break the vial. However, this room isn't the tomb at all. There is an illusion here that makes a plain table look like a tomb. Smashing the vial breaks the illusion, but it will not summon Telor. At this point, the heroes are probably thinking they have screwed up, but if they continue the quest and eventually find the real tomb, Telor appears to them anyway. They didn't need to smash the vial at all. Telor then tells the heroes to go to the halls of the High Mages and reduces the bearer's mind points by 1 to ease their burden. That seems like a bit of a wasted opportunity to me. I think it would have been great if there were 2 endings to this mission. If the heroes smash the vial at the right time, all is well. If they smash it at the wrong time, they don't get to meet with Telor. They have to fight an additional enemy in order to learn about the High Mages, and the bearer does not get their mind points reduced. Just a small change like that would flesh out this idea of the magical vial, and it would either leave the heroes feeling like they should be more careful next time, or feeling like they did something cool. Anyway, the only other point of interest with this particular quest is that the first time the Talisman Bearer fails their burden roll, and Melar tries to take control of them, Zargon is allowed to cast the Summon Orc spell. That adds a nice bit of tension to proceedings. Quest 9 is the Halls of the High Mages. Once again, the first time the bearer fails their burden roll in this quest, Zargon is allowed to summon some orcs. Other than that, what have we got of note? Oh, linked doors. Those are neat. If any hero opens one of the doors marked A, all the other doors marked A spring open and the rooms are laid out. Once again, we are getting ways for monsters to get into the fight early and en masse, making them more proactive. However, the main feature of this map is the central section, which has a gallery surrounding a sunken room. This creates an interesting battlefield across 2 levels. Heroes can jump into the room from the gallery, but it costs them a body point. Alternatively, anybody can move between levels using the stairs. Again, it's a very neat idea, but I have several complaints about the implementation. First of all, the obvious thing. A map overlay here would have been really nice. Something to better delineate the 2 levels and make this area feel a bit more special. Second, the stairs lead from the gallery to the room, and apparently they also lead out of the dungeon to the next quest. But the implication is that initially heroes cannot use these stairs to leave. This is because there are 4 magic guardian skeletons, and only after killing all of them will a spirit appear to tell the heroes to go down to get out. Now this is just a bit clunky. The quest notes never say the heroes can't use the stairs immediately to get out. They also don't tell you to clearly identify the exit once the skeletons have been defeated. The final skeleton just says, "Go beneath the room to the arena of Mistldia." Which room? The heroes have probably already used the stairs from the gallery to get to the sunken room at that point. Would they suddenly think, "Oh, I bet the stairs go down further now"? Probably not. They will probably start searching the room where the last skeleton was destroyed instead. The quest notes don't even give an explanation for why the heroes wouldn't be able to figure out for themselves that those stairs go down to a lower level. Oh, and as one final bit of added sloppiness, 3 of the skeletons are in rooms with bookcases, which means you either have to swap in a cupboard or use one from Mage of the Mirror. Not a big deal, but whatever, while I'm picking, I'll mention it. Overall, I think this pretty cool concept has been handled a little bit poorly in my opinion, but it's pretty easy to resolve. After destroying the final skeleton, the apparition tells the heroes to search the altar for a switch they would never have been able to find if they hadn't been told it was there. This makes the altar slide sideways, revealing a separate staircase. Sorted. Moving on, Quest 10 is the Arena of Mistldia. This arena was created by a mage to train in combat. No magic can exist in the arena, so if all the heroes get inside, Melar will be cast out of the talisman. The arena has 4 doorways, but the heroes learn from a magical book that none of the doors open until there is 1 hero standing at each of them. If you are playing with less heroes, you will have to adjust the number of doors accordingly. Once all the heroes are in place, they are pulled into the arena. Melar emerges from the talisman and possesses the body of an abomination. At that point, The bearer of the talisman forgets their dread spells, their mind points return to what they were at the start of this questline, and they no longer have to make burden tests at the beginning of each of their turns. Also, during the fight in the arena, heroes are not allowed to use spells, artifacts, or even equipment, although they can still drink potions. And the aim here is to kill the abomination that Melar has possessed. Do that, and the heroes win. Melar's spirit curses them and fades away. Overall, this is a suitable climax for the struggle between Melar and the Talisman Bearer, but unfortunately, I do have 3 complaints. As with the gallery in the previous quest, there is no card overlay for the arena, and this is an issue because the arena comprises 4 rooms on the map. You were just told to ignore the walls printed on the board, and honestly, I don't think that's good enough, not for an official retail product that costs £27.99. You can find fan-made overlays online that you can print yourself, but I don't think it should be down to fans to do that. The second complaint is minor, but I will mention it for completeness. The quest notes don't tell you how to handle unarmed combat. Now, you will already have the rules for unarmed combat. They are in the quest notes for Quest 6 from the core game Legacy of the Orc Warlord, where we are told unarmed heroes roll 1 attack dice and 2 defend dice. So that is not an insurmountable oversight, but it is still something that should be in the notes. And my last complaint is related to the spike in challenge here. If the heroes cannot benefit from magic, armour or weapons of any kind, there is a very real chance that squishier characters are going to get a horrible battering. The classic hero lineup is likely to have trouble, but if your players have decided to play a game with the Rogue, Druid, Warlock and Bard, I don't fancy their chances of survival. Even if the heroes manage to hold their ground, this is going to be quite a long, dull fight. With each hero only rolling 1 dice to attack, they are going to struggle to wade through the host of orcs and goblins, and the abomination is going to be a massive challenge. You are going to end up playing turn after turn after turn, where heroes roll 1 dice, whiffing their attacks. To be honest, I'd be inclined to let the heroes use their non-magical equipment and armour. I would also recommend Zargon players ensure the heroes have a good stock of potions by this point. It's just going to make that last fight quicker and less infuriating. And if the heroes are finding it too easy that way, consider respawning the orcs and goblins they kill. They will eventually figure out they need to kill the abomination to win. But, assuming the heroes survive, we still aren't done. Enemies in HeroQuest just don't like staying dead. We move on to Quest 11, Melar Unleashed. There is a bit of a narrative bump here that I don't like. Despite having just seen Melar possess an abomination which they then defeated, Mentor tells the heroes that Melar has possessed an abomination and they must find it before he can transfer to a more suitable host. This feels like it undoes the good work the heroes just did fighting the abomination, possibly with their bare hands, and almost reads like there was a change in how the last quest was going to finish. Maybe originally the abomination was supposed to run away. Whatever the reason, this seems jarring. I think Mentor should say, "You have killed Melar's physical form, but his spirit lives on and is searching for another body. You must find him and banish him forever." Anyway, not much to say about this mission. When you catch up with the Melar abomination, he escapes, and there is a grisly note that indicates he has found and taken the head of the deceased sorcerer Felmorak in order to assume the sorcerer's form. It's also worth noting this dungeon has a nice cyclical design, and if the heroes chase Melar, they find a previously hidden route back to the starting point. There's also a chance to grab a couple of scrolls that contain 3 charges each, including one for Lightning Bolt. At the beginning of Quest 12, the heroes find out that the elven city of Haven of the Lights, where Mentor had hidden the Sorcerer's Crown, has been destroyed by Doomguard. Doomguard are elite dread warriors. They were first mentioned in the Dark Company mission from the old HeroQuest Advanced Quest edition of the game. The heroes have to travel to the ruined city and face Melar before the world is cast into perpetual darkness. One of the first things to happen in this quest is the heroes find a friendly goblin who is working undercover in service of the realm. Those of you who watched my Spirit Queen's Torment videos will know I'm not a big fan of friendly greenskins, and I do have to wonder how many friendly undercover goblins we have murdered up to this point in the story. Still, I'm not going to dwell on it. The friendly goblin will guide the heroes around some traps and will open a secret door for them. When they encounter some enemies, the next hero in turn order takes control of the goblin and can use it as an extra hero. And oh boy, their goblin is super strong and has the stats of a gargoyle. What is this? I joked in a previous video I wanted a miniature of a goblin in Dread Warrior armour. This fellow would be the perfect excuse to use it. This dungeon also features dread warriors that are immune to crossbows and block doorways. This could be potentially quite tiresome to deal with unless you have enough tools to circumvent their blockades, such as pass through rock spells, weapons that allow diagonal attacks, or a rogue who can squeeze into the rooms to get in some backstabs. The final boss is Felmorak, who is a pretty tough cookie with a lot of spells to throw around. Defeat him and you will destroy his crown, but he will escape, of course he will. There is still one more quest to get through. Quest 13, Zargon's Flame. In a final attempt to protect Felmorak, Zargon summons a bunch of monsters from fire. They don't have body points, instead whenever heroes hit them, regardless of how much damage they inflict, Zargon calls out 2 numbers and rolls a red dice. If either number is rolled, the monster survives. If a hero casts Water of Healing on a fire monster, they do not get any defend dice, and when rolling to see if they are destroyed, Zargon is only allowed to call out a single number. This quest also has a fun little mechanism where random monsters will spawn. This is achieved by shuffling up the monster cards and then drawing one. The final boss is of course Felmorak. He is also wreathed in fire and therefore has a 33% chance of shaking off any damage he doesn't defend. However, as an added twist, each turn Felmorak draws a random dread spell to cast. If he draws the spell Escape, he is consumed by the flames and destroyed forever. That's a pretty neat idea, except it is possible for the final battle to end immediately with Felmorak combusting before the heroes get a proper chance to lay into him. That would be a pretty disappointing way to close out the campaign after everything the heroes have been through. And that's it, quest over. For their trouble, each hero gains a Ring of Fortitude. Extra body points for everyone. Hurrah! So there we have it, Prophecy of Telor. It's good. I like it a lot. There are loads of great ideas packed into this quest, and some of the level designs are fantastic. There are, as you heard, a few issues. Some of the ideas aren't quite as fleshed out as I would like, and there are some omissions and errors throughout the book that should probably have been picked up on. But I don't think there is much here that a Zargon player couldn't remedy with just a few minutes of forward planning before the hero party turns up. Most importantly for me, this quest truly feels like a sequel to the original HeroQuest narrative. No expansion since Keller's Keep or Return of the Witchlord has felt so connected. It leans into the lore with the inclusion of Telor, and it expands the story of your own heroes who have already explored Mels Maze and found the Talisman of Lore. It's fun to see an old villain elevated from a bit player to a main antagonist, and to discover a dark secret about a magical item that was originally perceived to be good. Incorporating the plight of the heroes themselves into the storyline is also genius, as it makes the players care so much more. All told, for me personally, this is one of the best quest lines since Keller's Keep and Return of the Witchlord. But please, enough with the friendly orcs and goblins now. And that is it from me for now. Thank you so much for watching. If you like this video, please consider pressing the like button. If you really like this video, please consider subscribing if you don't already do so. And hopefully, I'll see you all again very soon. Bye bye everyone. Bye bye.